Good afternoon, I'm Isabella Ilioski and welcome to the Life in the Lockdown news. Here's what's been making headlines this week. New South Wales has recorded 39 new COVID-19 cases in the past 7 days. 10 of those cases have been locally acquired, while the remaining 29 are of those of returned travellers in hotel quarantine. New South Wales Health are investigating the sources of a number of infections. People living in southwest Sydney and the Southern Highlands are being urged to monitor for symptoms, and anyone showing mild signs should get tested. Meanwhile, all other states and territories have had no new locally acquired coronavirus infections in the past week. Now to the US, and America has set a new one-day record for COVID-19 cases this week, with more than 120,000 infections recorded on Thursday. Hospitalizations in the country have also spiked this week, with 50,000 recorded on Tuesday for the first time in 3 months. To date, the country has recorded more than 9.5 million COVID-19 cases. Meanwhile, in the UK, England has gone back into lockdown this week following a rise in coronavirus infections. All non-essential businesses have been forced to close, and people are advised to stay home and limit social interactions. British Prime Minister Boris Johnson says the lockdown will last up to 4 weeks.
Tell you what, man, these news broadcasts every day are just getting the same. It's just the same stuff every single day. I'm done. I'm sick of it.
And every time I pick up a newspaper or turn on the TV, it's just the doom and gloom and same old thing.
I don't know, I'm just starting to think about the future, And I know where I'm going to be sitting in a year's time. Like, what's going to be going on?
Yeah, we don't want to just be here in nothing. We want something bigger for us.
I know, man, but I'm dying to get a job, to be honest.
Well, at least us two are somewhat lucky. I mean, women's jobs are about 1.8 times more vulnerable to this crisis than men's.
Even then, did you see that Boost Juice in Melbourne? 1,300 applicants for one job at Boost Juice, part-time. World's gone mad. Look, man, I wish someone would just tell me, what are my job prospects over the next 6 months? Like, what am I going to be doing over the next 6 months? What's Australia going to be doing over the next 6 months regarding work? Oh, this show looks like... I'll put this on, yep.
"25-year-old Sasha Hall has become an expert at applying for jobs. The Wollongong local graduated with her Masters in International Development earlier this year. Since then, she's been applying for at least 2 jobs a day, but so far she's had no luck.
Been looking every single day, but what I want to do is all international based, so yeah, there's not a lot going on because of the borders being closed and stuff at the moment.
While she's fortunate enough to still be eligible for youth allowance, her cut-off date is in sight, and she's growing concerned about how she'll be able to financially support herself once that day arrives.
Like, I'm feeling a bit lost and a little bit worried that I won't have a job in a month or in 2 months, and no financial security.
She's just one of the many graduate students struggling to secure work during the pandemic. More than 130,000 university students are set to graduate in Australia this year. However, their job prospects are looking pretty bleak. The economic downturn caused by the pandemic has seen the jobs market plummet to levels not seen since the 1990s recession, and young people are bearing the brunt of it. The latest figures from the Australian Bureau of Statistics show Australia's youth unemployment rate, which includes those aged between 15 to 24, is sitting at a whopping 14.5%. That's more than double the national average. If historical trends are anything to go by, then things aren't looking too good for young Aussies in the coming years. Take the Great Financial Crisis of 2008, for example. In the 7 years following the crisis, the youth unemployment rate rose from 9 to 13.4%. Meanwhile, the national average unemployment rate rose by just 1.8% in the same 7-year period. With current figures showing strong parallels with the GFC, there's concern the pandemic could trigger another long-term spike in youth unemployment, as economics professor Martin O'Brien explains.
The younger age groups tend to be hit harder by recessions. They're going to be more likely to lose their job. It's going to be more difficult to get a job in the environment where there's not that many people hiring. And the third thing is that if they do get employed, typically it takes a while for wage growth to increase after a recession. This effect can last a good 5 years.
So, what's been done to fix this?
There is no economic recovery without a jobs recovery.
Last month, Treasurer Josh Frydenberg unveiled the government's federal budget, which included a number of job creation measures.
We owe it to the next generation to ensure a strong economy so that their lives are filled with the same opportunities and possibilities that we have enjoyed.
Among the measures announced was the JobMaker and Job Trainer wage subsidy schemes, which focus on getting young Aussies back into work. Under the $4 billion JobMaker scheme, eligible employers will receive $200 a week to take on a staff member aged 16 to 29 or $100 for someone aged 30 to 35. Employers will receive the subsidy for 12 months and new hires will be required to work a minimum of 20 hours per week. Meanwhile, the $1.2 billion Job Trainer scheme will see the government pay 50% of new apprentices' weekly wages, in a bid to encourage employers to take on more young people. Combined, Treasury estimates the schemes will help create up to 450,000 jobs and an additional 100,000 apprenticeships. Sounds good, right? Well, not everyone is convinced. Professor O'Brien says that while the budget is a positive for apprentices and trainees, it fails to address the challenges facing graduate students like Sasha.
The budget was probably one of the biggest things that potentially had implications for youth employment or youth unemployment. And it seemed to miss the mark a bit in terms of graduates. There were subsidies that were announced for people going into apprenticeships, so more your TAFE style of study. And there were subsidies to business for younger people if they were on Jobs Seeker. And that's not necessarily going to be helpful to the people that were graduates going out into the labour market.
Shadow Assistant Treasurer Stephen Jones agrees. He's also critical of the government's decision to scale back the JobKeeper and JobSeeker wage subsidies.
If I've got a criticism of the government, they're pulling back support to the unemployed, they're pulling back support to businesses a lot earlier than when the economy is expected to pick up again, and a lot earlier than those industries where young people are traditionally employed: hospitality, arts, entertainment, tourism. Those industries aren't going to have fully recovered by the time the government has yanked all that support out. That's simply not good enough.
So, what can young people out of work do while they wait for the job market to pick up again? Well, there's a few options. Professor O'Brien says graduating students should strongly consider extending their studies to build on their qualifications.
The government's been pretty keen on actually subsidising some of the graduate certificates, which are relatively short courses that you would do. A graduate certificate's usually 4 subjects. But if you're biding your time doing a bit of extra study, that could also go down with employers as well, because you're going to actually have a higher level of qualification compared to the people that you're competing against when those jobs do come around.
If you're not studying, or an extra year at uni isn't something you're keen on, then there are other options, as Illawarra Business Chamber Executive Director Adam Zarth explains.
There are a lot of individuals who are funded by government to provide career advice, so I would just urge you to go and check the Federal Department's website to have a look at what's available to them in the form of coaching and other. And of course, those people are always well connected to be able to put you in touch with an employer who may have opportunities. Of course, Centrelink is I guess set up to provide those linkages into paid employment as well. So that would be an option for you as well if you found yourself looking for work.
As for Sasha, she's planning to make the most of her free time.
I've got a bunch of books that I'm going to read. I've got a puzzle out at the moment. Training my dog, like really just trying not to sit at home and watch TV and feel sorry for myself.
I guess that makes my prospects look a little bit better then. Like, that's not too bad.
Yeah, it seems to. You have a plan over the summer?
Yeah, I might have something to do, but, summer, holiday, like, I want to go on holidays,
Yeah. I've been thinking about Hawaii.
I don't think so yet, man.
Maybe not yet.
Dude, some people are so desperate for a holiday. Did you hear about that guy who travelled from Victoria to Queensland on his $1 million yacht? What was he up to?
Well, it's good news here for us in Wollongong. I mean, the Queensland border's open in a few days. Time to get surf, Goldie, schoolies.
Oh, put it on Channel 73. Coen's Corner's on in a minute.
Oh, I heard that show's pretty good, actually. There's no doubt in saying that the events that have plagued the New South Wales South Coast over the past 12 months are drastically going to change the way that we holiday and how South Coast residents operate. Locally, the area has seen bushfires.
Bleak start to the new year, with 7 people now confirmed to have died and 2 others unaccounted for in our state's worst ever bushfire crisis.
Floods.
Residents across the New South Wales South Coast are waking up to destruction and devastation.
The SES says it's the worst flooding event that these towns have seen since 1991.
And now the COVID-19 pandemic has decimated the tourism industry. So there's only one more question to be asked. What is tourism after lockdown? According to recent tourism satellite accounts from the Australian Bureau of Statistics, the nation has already lost 109,000 jobs in the tourism economy since June last year. For the New South Wales South Coast region and Shoalhaven, almost 10% of the job pool in the area relied on tourism in 2019, a number that has likely significantly dropped. Now, with the new summer approaching, the Shoalhaven region's challenging year might not quite be over yet. To grasp how the region has coped since December last year, I felt that we need to first get an idea for how the region relies on tourism. And for that, I turn to Amanda Finley, Mayor at the Shoalhaven City Council.
Yes. So tell me, just generally, what's been the last 12 months compared to the last, 12 years?
Oh, the last 12 months have been completely off the scale for everybody, not just me as a city leader, but everyone's experienced the last 12 months in a really surreal kind of a way. That was a really trying and hard time, particularly for our fire affected community that were trying to pull themselves back together. And just when you need other people around a lot, you just can't have other people. So it's been pretty hard.
What did you guys kind of have in plan, coming out of the bushfire season, and how did COVID essentially ruin that?
Yeah, so coming out of bushfire season and trying to get into those early days of recovery, what we had planned were recovery events. So lots of live music, some concerts, the Blessing of the Fleet parade. There's 10,000 people come to that in Ulladulla. It's the biggest religious ceremony in the southern hemisphere, but all of that had to be stopped and put on hold.
How devastating do you think the summer will look if we end up, let's say like Victoria, let's say something like this spans out of control, for the community, businesses, how do you feel?
If we went into a situation of really strict lockdowns for summer in the Shoalhaven this year, it would have incredible, not just economic impacts, but the mental health impacts from that would just be really devastating, and we'd have to have in place a whole bunch of supports that were, dedicated to assisting the people.
You said back in May, I'm pretty sure, about how people coming down to the community needs to respect the area and stuff. That was your...
Oh yeah, I got in a lot of trouble.
I read the comments.
The comments in question referred to an ABC interview the mayor did earlier this year, in which Miss Finley pleaded to tourists coming from Sydney to take care of the environment and the people who are hurting from the region's tough year. In return, Miss Finley received numerous backlashes from online commentators, stating that the quote was embarrassing and unfriendly.
I'd be embarrassed if I was a local implying I was not friendly. Seriously, you want people to come and spend money, but the locals might not be friendly? We were all Australians.
In other words, we're not going to be welcoming, but come and spend your hard-earned money here anyway, because your lives are so stress-free and all? Nope. We're happy spending our precious holiday budget on a much-anticipated and needed week in Byron Bay.
But I'm guessing you still have the same thoughts for coming into summer, right?
Oh, absolutely, because you can't, being a conscientious traveller, whether it's people being a conscientious traveller coming into the Shoalhaven or us as people who live here permanently travelling out, we just do have to respect the people's places that we're going into. Because the place has been traumatised, that when you go to a place and if the person isn't nice to you because you're not being particularly awesome on that day, then don't expect a warm welcome from them, because you don't know what's going to make someone snap, and just think about walking in other people's shoes basically.
I think it's pretty good.
Yeah?
Thank you so much.
Oh, yeah. Too easy.
It was pretty easy, yeah.
It was from this that I began to think. With more floods and bushfires annually, and the new threat of global pandemic shutting down our industries, a post-2020 world that sees diversity in regional economies like tourism is a goal worth aiming for. So following my chat with Amanda, I travelled further south, in hopes of finding a company that was challenging the norms on tourism reliance. And amongst the burnt out, regrowing bushland appeared Ulladulla and a new business model. 1, 2, 3. Alright, cool, perfect. Located in central Ulladulla, Slow is a new collective movement of ethically produced fashion, home decor and natural body lotions. Created by 5 women including Gail, Naomi and Kim. The business, which opened mid this year, challenged the traditional local focus on tourism economy, pushing for more local and online attention. With Ulladulla being one of the most fire-affected areas along the south coast, we asked how the local area was going this year.
In the area, because tourism is one of the biggest money makers for this area, and so it usually gets us through those quiet months of winter. And so for COVID to then come kind of shortly on the back of all the bushfires, it created a lot of uncertainty for a lot of people. We were kind of about to open right when COVID hit, and so we had to put a big pause on that and still kind of keep encouraging each other and not getting scared, because a lot of people were really frightened. There was a lot of businesses that I saw that really just pulled their arms and legs in like a turtle and really just shut up shop. A lot of people left other collectives and things that I'm a part of as well, and that was really difficult to process, and because we really didn't know what was ahead of us. But I think the gathering of the 5 of us ladies that are so really brought a lot of encouragement, and I think we helped each other when some were low and some were high. There was a moment there for probably about a week where I think we were all just in panic mode going, is this the end of my 15 years of building a business? And so in a moment when you're faced with something that is going to change your business or could be damaging, you have to just learn how to pivot.
Do you think nationally, for a country that depends so much on tourism and people coming here, is it time to change the reliance on that?
I think a lot of people need to look at it in a different way. A lot of people need to join hands and maybe do a business idea together, like what we've done.
Because even though people can't go overseas, they're heading everywhere they can that's beautiful. And we have like one of the best countries. We're like in the world. And right now, we're the place to be, I think.
With that, my journey was over. I had made new friends and experiences of community, and with that in mind, I found that while we as a nation rebuild our tourism sector, maybe it's time to rethink for the future. So come on, Australia, where the bloody hell are ya? You know, on second thoughts, I don't think I can afford a holiday, in all honesty.
No, I don't. Probably not, actually. Worried so much about our future job prospects, I don't think we should be spending the money on holidays right now.
One thing I don't get is how, like, my local venue, which puts 100 people in it, can't have 100 people in it. But these massive stadiums can have 50,000 people sit and watch the footy grand final. And just because they're sitting down, they're not spitting and screaming everywhere.
Did you hear about Great Southern Nights? It's that Destination New South Wales initiative to fund like 1,000 gigs across New South Wales.
Well, yeah, I think one of those bands are about to start talking on TV right now.
The first year of business at Wollongong music venue La La La's has been tough for owner and manager Nathan Stratton.
Since opening up in November last year after the unfortunate closure of Rad Bar, La La La's has become Wollongong's new venue for live music, cold beer and good times. The stylish 3-level open-plan pub quickly gained popularity across the country with bands playing until late on almost every night. However, in the peak of business for La La La's, COVID-19 forced Nathan to shut up shop.
We were forced to close for 3 months, and since when we've been reopened, we have been at a limited capacity, pretty much less than a third of our capacity. I knew it was going to be challenging. It's maybe been a little bit more challenging than I thought.
Months of uncertainty and hard to work with restrictions followed from early March, leaving many business owners worried of where this would leave them.
It's a bit uncertain in the regard of where we don't know when these, the restrictions are going to ease. If they do ease, obviously that's going to help us.
As COVID restrictions loosened in Australia, La La La's was able to reopen from the 15th of July and continue work, but in a very different manner. Gigs became socially distanced with seating only and numbers became very limited.
Probably the biggest hurdle is trying to have a seating plan for an event space where we'd only been doing standing only.
So trying to get as many people in as safely as possible. And you're trying to promote people to come out, and then you also got to police the sort of the standing, the sitting. So like it's difficult to have a good vibe when there's so many rules and restrictions.
It was better than nothing though. Musicians and bands wanted to play again, the people needed to go out again, and La La La's pushed forward to create a COVID-safe place.
There is a bit more confidence coming back. It seems like, most artists are happy to play twice in a night if they wanted to make it, a couple more bucks. I think typically audiences are happier to pay a little bit more money too, knowing that there are smaller capacities and the arts community are struggling.
Local band Good Lecker are just one of the many bands to have played at La La La's since their reopening. The pandemic forced this indie rock collective to cancel their tours earlier this year.
We did have a show booked for Perth with Verge Collection, which was a part of a tour we did with them. And I think it was like a week before we were going to play, that's when all the COVID-19 stuff really hit the fan, and all our flights had to be cancelled and whatnot.
With gigs off the cards, the six-piece made the most of their time in lockdown, hosting a number of virtual gigs and writing new music. Last month, they finally got to step back onto stage to release their new single, Timeless Coward.
It feels so much better.
Yeah.
It's weird. It's like that you feel lost in a weird way, and to be able to just do it and hustle again, it's it's kind of rewarding when everything works out.
Obviously coming back to playing live, there's that feedback they can get from an audience immediately.
As we head into summer and into each of our lives after lockdown, things are looking up. The number of patrons allowed into La La La's are increasing, and overall social restrictions aren't so harsh. Nathan is excited for the coming months, aiming for a flying return with new bands and new ideas on how to reinvigorate La La La's and the Wollongong live music scene.
Yeah, I think that we're just going to continue to grow, and I think that that we will be doing sort of 6 or 7 days of live music, and downstairs we're going to evolve our pub and our laneway beer garden, and we'll extend our offering and get a new menu in and get our kitchen really happening. So we want to try and see as restrictions ease to try and get a little bit of a hang happening down here as well, when it can be done safely.
If there are any other music venues as progressive and welcoming as La La La's, then I'll be damned. This is where our life will be after lockdown. See you here.
Well, man, I guess life after lockdown anyway doesn't look too bad. At least we can maybe still get a job.
Go to gigs.
Go on holidays. Yeah, it's not too bad.
And, just imagine if we woke up tomorrow and the pandemic was over.
Tell you what I'd do, man. I'd go to the smallest, condensed music venue in New South Wales, get as sweaty as possible, as drunk as possible, and maybe kiss my mates on the mouth.
Your idea does sound pretty good though. Going to gigs again, getting sweaty, kissing mates. Although, I might have to grow up a little bit, unfortunately, start getting a job, making money again. Guess that's what my summer will be. I wonder what everyone else would do if their pandemic was over tomorrow.
Probably go out with my mates, maybe away for a weekend, and probably work more.
I would go and have the biggest, longest boogie all night long.
Go out clubbing. I'd go get pissed probably, go out dancing, clubbing. It's been a while, maybe go on a grinder date, you never know, something like that.
Probably book a flight to Vietnam.
And the first thing I do is just hop on a plane, go overseas, backpack through South America.
I would spend my entire savings on running the biggest bush stuff ever and invite everyone, and it'll just go for a month long, and we'll just be in a big old mosh and just, have a party.
I would go visit my best friend who lives in Melbourne. I haven't seen her in about 7 months, so yeah.
Go to the pub, a few gigs maybe.
Maybe book an overseas trip.
Probably just have everyone over, just see a bunch of my mates I hadn't seen in months. Just even if it's just a beer with everyone, just catch up. I don't know, it'd be great to see everyone.
If there are any other music venues here in Wollongong that are as progressive and welcoming as La La La's, then I'll be damned. This is where our life will be in... If there are any other music venues here in Wollongong that are as progressive and welcoming as La La La's... Oh, fuck.
With current figures... Oh, my God.
With current figures showing, oh my god, I keep going blank.
Did you hear about that Melbourne guy who travelled up from Melbourne? Did you hear about that Melbourne guy who travelled up from Victoria? Oh my god, fucking hell.
You know what's great? Great Southern Nights. Did you hear about Great Southern Nights? It's pretty great.
Check. Fuck COVID.